What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Good morning and welcome to the Shred Show Live. You can see these guys because you know how we start the show. We're pumped up. We're excited for the day. We're excited to be shredding with all of you. I'm joined by Josh Hebert. Yeah, that's right. I said it right. Josh Hebert and Shane Westra, SimpleNexus. Ladies and gentlemen, we're getting into a conversation that is absolutely going to change your mindset. That's going to change your business. You are not going to want to miss our discussion today of the ultimate customer experience, creating it for you and for your customers. Ladies and gentlemen, it is time to shred. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Shred Show Live. I'm excited to have Shane Westra and Josh Hebert from Highlands Residential Mortgage with us. And you guys know Shane. You see him all the time. He is continuing to be one of the great leaders of our industry. Shane is the Chief Product Officer over at SimpleNexus. Shane, good morning. What's up, brother? Good to have you on the show.
Thank you. Pleasure to be here.
So I'm excited to be getting into our conversation today. And before we start diving into a lot of it, if they're living under a rock in our industry and they haven't heard of SimpleNexus, maybe just kind of give us a little heads up. Who is SimpleNexus and what are you guys really known for right now?
Great. Yeah, thanks, Josh. And so SimpleNexus, we are a digital mortgage platform that focuses on the home ownership journey. And so connecting lenders, borrowers, and real estate agents all to have a seamless, unified experience throughout the whole process. And so, working with lenders and others to ensure that everyone can really just be more efficient and have a pleasurable experience in dealing with mortgages and anything else related to the home ownership journey.
Oh man, I love that because it's an enjoyable, this homeowner journey. And I love that as kind of you guys' focus because all of us have been, from Josh, myself, you, being in this space, that homeowner journey is so critical for borrowers, for people buying a home, especially in this technological age where we're going to be talking about technology a lot more here in just a second. But now more than ever, creating that journey, creating an enjoyable journey is absolutely critical. And Josh, I'm excited to have you on the show. Josh Hebert. Guys, I learned his name. I'm nailing his name today. I'm not going to miss it. But over at Highlands Residential Mortgage. So for Josh, for people who don't know you and who don't know Highlands, give us a little introduction on yourself and Highlands Residential Mortgage.
Sure. So as you said, I'm Josh Hebert, not Hebert or Herbert, but I appreciate you pronouncing that correctly. It's a little difficult, but thank you. No, I've been in the industry for 21 years. I think it's 21. It's been a long time, to be honest. But mainly IT. I've worked for bank-owned companies, but private companies, mainly in technology and leadership roles throughout those 21 years. But a little bit about Highlands. We're your traditional retail mortgage company. Traditional in that it's retail, but we're not traditional in our approach. We've been in the best mortgage companies to work, that survey, and I think it's 2019, 20, and 21. We've been in the top 3 as best places to work. So that's pretty awesome. Certainly our company, our employees telling us what they think about us, right? And the other thing that we're big into is as you said, the customer experience. We can fight on rate, we can be competitive on services, that sort of thing, but it's all about the experience that we provide the customer.
100%. And that's, look at perfect segue. It's like Josh does this for a living. He knows exactly where we're going with this conversation because honestly, the customer experience, that's becoming one of the hottest topics in our industry. Technology continues to advance, which we're going to talk, like I said, we're going to talk about technology and how SimpleNexus, the tools and process is helping with that seamless customer experience. But Josh, when it comes to, having a mortgage company in these day and age, like you mentioned, rates are all over the place. Margin compression is now a discussion, but really being able to connect with your customer, being able to connect with that borrower on levels where really your competitors can't, that's what starts to set you apart. And at Highlands, I know that's a big focus of your guys is like, hey, that's why we partner with SimpleNexus, because ultimately creating that customer experience is not just like, we probably should do it. It's like, hey, if you're not doing it, you're getting left in the dust, right?
Absolutely. It's how do you differentiate yourself, right? We could certainly compete in rate. That's something that a lot of companies are doing. They're compressing their margins, lowering their rates, and that's that's their competitive advantage. Certainly, we're going to stay in the market, but we take a slightly different approach. As you said, it's about that customer experience. It's about it being, a one location, one-stop shop. We don't want them bouncing around from multiple different types of technology. If they have one central location to communicate with us, to exchange documentation, to pretty much do everything from soup to nuts in the mortgage process, that's what we're after.
Well, and Shane, that's exactly what like, this is kind of Josh is he's good at this. He should have his own show or something. He nails these points. I like this. But Shane, that's exactly what SimpleNexus is you guys have that one place. You don't have to go to multiple places. You don't have to bounce here. You don't have to go there. You don't have to go there. You guys create, it can all be done on this these days, which is exciting. Like the mobile experience continues to improve. We were actually talking about, SpaceX and Tesla, which if you guys don't know this, Josh, his boyhood dream was to become an astronaut. And now that SpaceX is down in Texas, Josh is geeking out over SpaceX, which is cool.
Absolutely.
But SimpleNexus, to kind of compare, you guys are the SpaceX of the industry. You guys are the leaders. You're the pioneers of this industry, continuing to push the envelope. But Shane, ultimately, that's what you guys want. You want to create that ultimate customer experience. You want to create it seamless for companies like Highland, right?
Exactly. I think in the past, people just kind of thought, oh, mortgage is different. It has to be complicated. It has to be difficult. It has to be in person with a stack of papers. I think the mentality of people are changing. They realize that no, there's no reason why that has to be the case. It can be simple throughout the whole process, whether it's your initial home search, understanding the loan application, uploading documents, and everything. Adding EClose has been a huge focus for us as well. Yeah, from beginning to end, that is what we're looking for: is the unified, seamless experience to make sure that that is the only place that people go, just to make it easier for borrowers in particular, but also for loan officers. I think a lot of people think that the borrower experience is everything, which it is important, but the loan officer experience and the agents as well, making sure that all of those work together as well is extremely important.
Well, and that's why this whole conversation is pretty cool, because Shane, like you said, you're creating the customer experience. Highlands being a customer of SimpleNexus, and then going all the way down to consumer, to people buying homes from Highland. That's kind of creating this entire ecosystem, creating this entire culture that breeds a better customer experience. And I know we were talking about this before, Josh, and something that you guys are really, really big on, and especially as the market continues to shift. 2020 was a banner year for refinances, and you shared some of the numbers of, hey, you know what? You gotta do refis while you can, but it's making that shift back into the purchase market. And again, that's something you guys have always focused on. And you were telling me a little bit before is that being able to utilize the SimpleNexus system and the tools and the processes in place has actually kind of helped you guys differentiate yourself when it comes to investment properties. And this is something that you guys have seen a lot of success with, is being able to, and Shane mentioned this, the EClose process. COVID has given us all kinds of opportunities, people spending less times at the closing table. So how has it really allowed Highlands to adopt, more of a mindset for the future and being able to do these investment properties as well?
Yeah, and I think you hit the nail on the head. And honestly, another comparison could be our work from home situation, right? We're allowing people to work from wherever they live. But I think the comparison certainly is those that are trying to buy properties, whether it be an investment property, whether it be a vet that's overseas. No matter where they are, right? We want to provide them this experience of this technology. It shouldn't be a requirement anymore that you're sitting in your home state and you have to go to a title company and physically sign documents, or in a lot of cases get a power of attorney for your spouse or whoever you're buying the house with. We certainly want to get away from that and again put these tools in their hands where they're at.
Yeah. And Shane, did you ever imagine, again, as SimpleNexus has continued to grow, and I know something, again, creating that seamless experience for companies like Highland, for originators, for mortgage companies out there, this EClose experience, and I know you and I have talked about it and you talk about it at length, but this EClose experience continues to evolve. It continues to shape our industry because, this pandemic has given us an insight, whether it's work from home, like Josh said, or whether it's just a more seamless experience, closing more efficiently, more quick. Did you ever imagine that we'd be at the point that we are like right now?
COVID definitely accelerated things more than I anticipated, or I think most people anticipated, not only with regulation changes, but just the mindsets that people have on, we need to do things in a more seamless and a more remote friendly fashion. And I think helping navigate those waters, Highlands has been a perfect example of, partnering with us to say, okay, Highlands, how should this work in this new world? Let's craft this solution together and make sure that we're leveraging their expertise. Highlands is great because they're just on the leading edge of everything tech to make sure that they're pushing the envelope of what can we provide as benefits to all parties involved, and especially to the borrower, kind of like they mentioned with investment properties or other situations where they literally cannot do things in person. So what are the options? How do we craft that new experience for them? And it's been great to see not only the adoption from the lenders, but from the borrowers themselves. This is something that borrowers are now starting to ask for. It's like, no, I need to use a lender that can support me in these remote situations. And so I think very soon it will just become the norm. And we've seen that a lot. Hybrid EClose is already taken off like wildfire. So many people using that and just loving it. And then with remote online notarization, that also has been adopted very quickly now that more and more states are coming on board with just a handful of holdouts. So yeah, this is definitely the wave of the future.
Well, you nailed something right there, Ron. Remote online notarization is a big topic right now. And that's something I know SimpleNexus continues to be a pioneer and continuing to lead the way. But for companies like Highland, this is an opportunity to continue to change, to give the customer what they want. And that's why a collaboration, a partnership with companies between like Highlands and SimpleNexus are so critical. And again, that's why this conversation in particular, you have a company like Highlands that's willing to say, hey, you know what? We see the future. We want to be part of it. Let's work together. Let's ultimately give the consumer what they want. And that's why you guys are able to work together in the ecosystem that you are. Do you see that as becoming a more norm? And honestly, is this how companies are going to continue to thrive, is when these type of collaborations happen?
Yeah, I think so. Because it's not only between, us as a technology provider and, Highlands, for example, as a lender, but, introducing us to settlement agents and title companies, and how do those relationships function today and how will they function in the future? And so I think those are the types of partnerships that will help forge these new solutions to be in the best interest of everyone across the board. And also it's a very efficient way to craft and create these new solutions, instead of pinning things on assumptions or, well, what about this? You can work in real time. And so, yeah, we meet with Highlands, on a weekly basis on, hey, well, what if we did this? What if we did that? And it just makes the whole process of developing software and these new solutions so much faster than ever before.
And hey, Josh, I wanted to add a thought to that. So, I've spent quite a bit of my career in roles that are at companies where we were actually developing these solutions ourselves. And I've, been fortunate to be in that space and then move towards, interacting and talking to companies like SimpleNexus and making that evolution from trying to do it in-house to partnering with technology companies like SimpleNexus. It's honestly made a huge difference for us. In particular, they can go to market faster with new technology and new ideas and new features than most companies can internally, especially if you're bank owned because of the regulatory requirements that go along with it. But it's ultimately allowed me, as a CIO, to be more strategic and focus more on technology vendors as opposed to, the internal tactical things that you have to deal with when you're developing software.
So this is a really, Josh, I'm glad you took it in that direction, because this is something we're seeing more and more of. And again, as the industry continues to evolve, somebody in a position like you, Josh, is that something where companies have to start? There was a day and age, even recently within our industry, where companies were like, oh, well, we need to build our own tech. And I'm sure you even went down that road at one time, but you're like, you know what? There are companies now like SimpleNexus, they provide the gamut of like, hey, we don't need to go recreate the wheel. They want to work with us. Like Shane was saying, they're willing to listen to what we need and willing to adapt to our, what's going to help us more seamless, what's going to help us with that customer experience. Yeah,
absolutely. And it's more palatable, I think, especially for mid-tier mortgage companies, right? So you don't have to go and invest millions of dollars in people and all the technology to ultimately develop the solution. Now I can pay, a transactional cost that goes up as my company grows and goes down as my company, if we go in the opposite direction. So it's a variable cost. Again, it's palatable. There's not a lot of upfront cost to get this technology up and running. And like I said, you're quicker to the market, with the solution like SimpleNexus.
Well, and that's just it. Being quick, being efficient is one part of it. But Shane, you kind of mentioned this as well. That weekly conversation, that to me just blows my mind, because some people, number one, we're trying to be more efficient with our time, but that just shows how critical it is to be able to have discussions between companies like Highland Residential saying, okay, ladies and gentlemen, what do we need to do here for the customer experience? What are we doing to improve this homeowner journey? And the fact that you guys aren't just a tech company saying, well, we're going to do our thing, we're going to continue just to develop, but you're actually, again, you're integrating, you're talking with those partners. But that is really how SimpleNexus continues to adapt and continues to honestly lead the way. How do you see that continuing to, is this something that you guys continue to do in the future, having those conversations, Shane?
Yeah, definitely. It's very important to us. In fact, we've kind of organized our research and development teams based on these personas. And so we've got a team for the borrowers, team for the loan officers, for the agents. And these teams, we treat them like a startup. And so they can be as nimble as possible, partnering with companies like Highlands to work with them, on a weekly basis. Okay, we've talked about these problems that we need to solve. We have something we want to present, and they work through the prototypes and mocks of how things would work. And then we get real-time feedback where, Josh and team might say, oh, no, that's not right. You made a false assumption right there. It needs to be like this instead. And that way we're having those conversations way up front. Instead of relying on the built software, we can have it in the design phase, refine the solution, get it to market so much more quickly than before, and then iterate as we continue to add features and capabilities very quickly. And this is also very important because we not only touch the borrower and the loan officer and the agent, but there's a lot of tools and other systems that we integrate with under the hood as well to make sure that things are very elegant, and that we're aggregating any other systems that Highlands or other lenders have to work with. And so I think it's a very complicated piece to do, but partnering with Highlands and others is definitely the way to go.
And that's just it. And Josh, kind of as we start to wrap things up here, kind of going back to the original conversation, creating that customer experience is what Highlands is all about. Creating that trust, that confidence. How have you seen your originators, your team members really, grow from this, or adopting the SimpleNexus's tools and the processes that are put in place? How have you seen them improve through that homeowner journey?
Yeah, I think, it's all about, in traditional retail, as I've mentioned earlier, it's about your referrals, right? And repeat customers. So are your realtors happy with you? What sort of technology you providing, services, support that you're providing? Same thing with the referrals. If it's a family member or something, or a past customer, right? Why are they coming back to you? And I think a lot of that has to do with that experience. And one thing I didn't mention earlier was the fact that SimpleNexus has an app. An app on a phone, to me, creates so much stickiness, is kind of the word I use internally. But how do you stay in front of them all the time? People these days get so many emails, they don't pay attention to email, they don't pay attention to stuff in the physical mail, snail mail. But an app, excuse me, that has push notifications, that's constantly staying in front of you on your phone, I think ultimately is the way to go. But back to your original question, certainly our loan officers, they believe in the experience. They've been providing it for some time. We're just kind of adding a little nuggets to it as we go.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned sticky. I don't think these things are sticky. These things are like glue does, man. We freak out that we were like, sticky is like, these things are nailed to our side. If we lose them, we can't find them. We're like, hey, hold on, life ends. Like we have no idea, we can't function. But Shane, that's just it. And going back to that, that one stop for everything that is from EClose to the entire process. You and I have had this conversation before, but it really is, it's monumental. Coming from Josh and I, who have been originators 10 plus years ago, seeing the process as it has developed, being that we can literally have an entire mobile experience. That's what borrowers, that's what the consumer ultimately is wanting to see. Plus, like you said, it's efficient. It's there for them. We all have these. We all use these from originators to borrowers. And that's what SimpleNexus continues to adopt and continues to push forward in, correct?
Yep, exactly. And it's not only during the loan application process, but one of the things that we're trying to do is go beyond the scope of the traditional journey and extending that. One great example is post-close. We've got a lot of initiatives this year that it shouldn't be the closing of your loan that ends the relationship. How do we encourage the borrowers to come back to the app, check their home valuation? We're looking at servicing and so many other things. So you can't have those repeat customers. And so when it's time to either refinance or do a new purchase or to recommend to anyone else, that's where they go. They go to the app, they share it out, and that's just more business for the lenders.
Awesome. Well, as we wrap things up, I'm going to kind of ask you guys one final question here. Josh, what is one thing that you're looking forward to? Being that you've been in the industry as long as you have, what's one thing that you're excited for in this upcoming 2021 year within our industry?
Yeah, automation is going to be everything, I think, to our organization. The partnership we have with SimpleNexus and the things that are moving forward there certainly are moving us in the right direction. But I think, as margins start to compress, we have to figure out ways to do things, faster and more efficient. And I think ultimately automation is going to do that.
Oh, I love that. Automation is a big word. And again, that's something SimpleNexus is leading the way with. Absolutely. All right, Shane, what's something that you're excited for in this upcoming year?
I'm definitely excited about automation as well. But one of the other things I'm looking forward to is just human interaction. We were talking about this a little bit earlier, being able to go to shows again and see people in real life and establish those relationships is going to be huge. And so, definitely looking forward to seeing people, very soon in real life.
Well, this is the cool part. This is where this all comes together, because everything that we do here, everything that we use this for, ultimately is for that human, that relationship. Everything that SimpleNexus does is to Josh, what you said, is to create a relationship that is everlasting. Is the home buying journey, that experience that we as originators, we as mortgage companies are creating, is ultimately to build that relationship, that long term, where time and time again, we are there for our customers. We're there to make that experience enjoyable, to make it seamless, and even parts of it automated. So Shane, I love that. I'm excited as well to come back in person, to see Josh, to see Shane, to shake hands again. I'm excited for that as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we cannot thank Josh and Shane enough for joining us on this episode. There was a lot of great points. We hope that you really take this to heart. Start thinking about, how are you and your team creating the ultimate customer experience? And if you're not, if you're like, man, I am lost, you guys need to reach out to SimpleNexus. And I'm sure Josh would even be willing to share his experience as it's been integrated with SimpleNexus as well. You have to start looking forward to the future. You have to be the SpaceX. You have to push yourself beyond limits and start to make new advances within it. And again, that's why we love working with companies like SimpleNexus and Highlands. With that, ladies and gentlemen, huge shout out to both these guys. We appreciate you. We love you. Now it's time for all of you to go shred, go show up, hustle, repeat every day. See ya. Hey, what's up, everybody? Thank you again so much for joining us for today's show. If you like the content, make sure you hit that like button below. And if you already haven't subscribed to our channel, click right over here and you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you want to see our latest video, click over here. And again, if you want to see the best of daily content within the mortgage and real estate industries, you have to subscribe now. We look forward to having you shred with us every single day.